Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Tuesday, May the 7th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it's been a fairly straightforward day. It might have been a little confusing right in here for some people because it looked like we were really trending up, and then it looked like we were trending down, and then we've been up ever since then. But I'll show you what I saw. It looked like it was going to be kind of a range type day in the beginning. But I had a target of 16, of this line right here was my target that I drew early this morning, and we hit it to the T so far. So it was, and I'll show you how I got that. That was what I considered the first leg, then a correction, and so then I was looking for this leg to go. And you can see that was my target actually. Maybe it's right there. Before I had it one, let me just put that back on there. No, that's it. I just had it one tick off. So we hadn't quite got there yet. We've still missed it by a tick so far. So that was what I was looking for. Fairly clear channel here that we broke, and then a new high, then the sell-off. This channel might have been a little bit more difficult to find because it's a little more unusual. But you see the break right there, the new low, and then we've been trending up ever since. And you were easily able to find this trend line off these highs. You can see I drew that first and drug it down. So I was looking for this reversal right in here. Came on cue, and if you drew this right off the low, which is probably where it is, that's a perfect setup. Then you got another chance here. There were some other longs in here that I drew, and I'll explain those to you. But it's been a fairly straightforward day. If you just follow the price action and follow the rules, it generally will keep you on the right side of the market. Sometimes it's hard to convince yourself to follow the rules. I know that because I've been there. But if you'll just trust them and follow them, and you know, I think the biggest part is a lot of times we question, are we drawing our lines right, that kind of thing. But needless to say, you know, if you know, these are pretty clear channels, and all of them have followed the rules so far. So let's just talk about each of the trades. We got an uptrend here. We got a break of the trend line finally. We got a move up. You may not have wanted to go long above that bar. On a bigger picture, this is a failed second entry short, so short trap, and generally, you know, you don't worry as much about what the bar looks like because it is a trap. But if you wanted to wait on this bar, if you didn't use a stop and you didn't drop it in there quick, you probably got left behind because it rocketed on up. But easy scalp, and you know, you got the break, so you're looking for a new low. So anywhere in here off this congestion or these highs would have been okay to exit. You definitely wouldn't have wanted to sit through all of this hoping it comes back again. That's fairly bearish down through there. So when you do see these final little three kind of pushes up, and that's what you'll see a lot of times at the end of a move. And we may even have 1, 2, 3. We may get another one up here. We'll see. And then maybe we'll get we really hadn't had a break of this trend line if I've got this right, which I think we do. At first I wasn't sure if it was here, and it could be here. We might have the break, and so we may turn over, but oops, I always do that. But I'm guessing this is it right here. We've seen that a lot lately, kind of a, you know, a line off one side, and then really there's ends up being a deeper one. And what all it is the EMA is holding the prices, and it's acting kind of like a trend line itself. So, and that's common. So, but we had this first trade. Again, runners would have been worth 2 or 3 points depending on how you exited. And then we started going down. So getting into this short, it was really, there's not really a good setup up here. There's not really a good breakout pullback short unless you considered this one right here. We went a little lower, then we turned back up and then turned down. I didn't like that. This was the first attempt at a correction, and then we opened up right off that line and turned down. So I felt like, hey, this might be worth taking. I talked myself out of it. I didn't enter there. But if you saw that, it's right off the trend line. It's worth taking. And I marked it. And maybe I should have marked it green, but really you shouldn't, because by this time you got a fairly, you know, this trend line is confirmed. And you can tell that's a little trend running right down through there. We finally got a break here. I did enter on this one. You had to be careful on this one. if you tried, I really wanted to use a limit order, but prices never came back, and so I just moved. I started with my limit order in here, and I ended up moving it down, and it bounced around a couple of times, and I got filled. And then real quick, scalp, nothing more, but you're just looking for a move to a new low. And I really thought we were going to go and test this low, but we didn't quite get there, and we reversed. And so here's your reversal. This is really your signal bar, but this is the one you wanted to probably trade off of. That's not a very good entry bar. But when you saw that bar, again, if you tried to get too conservative, you got left behind. What I did was just use the stop on this one and got filled, and it took off because there's still enough room there before you get to the EMA or before you get back to these highs. Now we've had the break of the trend line and new low, so we're not really looking for shorts. You might have thought about going short there. Somebody sent me an email asking about that, but look at all that overlap. That's a horrible short. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 bars sitting there before it broke lower. 3 of them are basically inside bars, and 2 of them dojis. That's the kind that'll trap you every single time. And then same thing here. 2 more inside bars inside this, almost inside this bigger bar. It looks real bullish. And so it looks like a good place to short, but we've already had our new low, and now, so you got to be careful about going short here. And, at this point, with this higher low in here, that's when I'm looking for, by the time we got up here, I'm looking for my target up here. Now, this is a failed second entry short, so a good trap. It got just enough ticks to get out. Actually, I think if you entered, I actually entered on a stop here. But I got out without it ticking through, and I think it only got 4 ticks. So I don't know if everybody would have gotten out of this trade or not, but I did. 16. You see it only went to 17. I actually lost my power right here during this little move. And by the time I got through, I immediately, the power went out when we were trying to break above this bar right here, I think. It sat there for a few minutes, and I needed it to tick 2 more ticks higher to know I got out. And I lost my power right here on this little, before we broke higher. And so I called the trading desk to have them check on my order, and it said I'd already been filled, and all I had was my stop still sitting down here, and my stop would have been right below that bar. So it never would have gotten, it never would have got hit, because the last thing you want to do is get out and then come back down and get short in an uptrend. And so I was a little worried about that, so I called in and they canceled my order, but I got out of this trade without it ticking through. So I don't know if maybe it did tick through and it didn't show up on my chart because I lost power temporarily. Be curious to hear what anybody else, if on this little move right here at 9:50, 9:51 Central Standard Time, if you actually got 17 and a quarter or not, or if I got filled on a limit order without it ticking through, which that happens sometimes. And maybe it just pulled back and went higher. It pulled back and went higher. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. But I don't like being in a trade when I can't see what's happening, so I normally call and have them flatten me. But when I called to flatten, I was already out of the trade. I just had my stop was still sitting down through here. The one cancel other didn't trigger because I wasn't online when it happened. So, and that's one of the things you got to be careful of. So always call in if you lose power or something. Smart thing to do. But again, I like this trade because of the trap, and it took a little bit of work. Looking at it now, I probably would not have taken that trade. But at that point, I thought maybe the trend line was right up through here, that maybe it was like a spiking channel. So I was a little, I didn't know if we'd come back any deeper than that. So I went ahead and took it. And I normally will take those traps like that. There was another one here. I did not take this one because we bounced right off that line again, and we were about halfway back up through, so I didn't take this one, and then we ended up getting in this little trading range kind of deal here. It's just a little congestion area. We broke lower, but you also had the possible trend line down here. Nice place to go long. This one didn't close on its high, so this is one where I'd like to use a limit order if you could to get in. And, drop a limit order right at the high of that bar, maybe a tick in. You don't want to get back outside this line because you might miss the trade. And you might miss the trade anyway, so you might even go long with a stop. It just depends on how strongly you feel that you're reading everything right. And somebody actually sent me an email today asking me, how do you trade this when you get like this? Because you don't get clean setups a lot of time. You get a lot of overlap, but you got to go with what you see on a day like this, or you just don't get any trades. If you're not sure, just sit on the sideline until you get a good setup like that one, or maybe even like that one. Um, don't just guess, because if you guess, you may get it wrong. But if you think you're reading it right, a lot of times you have to enter in congestion, and this might have been an example here of where you might have entered, but it's not really a good signal bar. The signal bar didn't get good to here, and notice the trigger never triggered. So no reason to go long there. On this one, it did trigger. Most of them it triggers, and you wait on the trigger. And here again, you got a failed second entry short coming off the trend line, a possible trend line, but this is a breakout. This is kind of like a breakout pullback long. Notice that there's no closes in there. So that's where I moved that line down to. We got above it, closed above it, tried to go short again, trapped everybody. So right there going long, above that with a stop. It's right at the highs, but that's what you got to do on a day like this. And, and of course my target I'm looking for is way up here. And of course it takes on off pretty quickly. You got another chance here. It's a little double bottom. And even though that looks like a doji, that's more like a reversal bar. So the trigger long is one break. That's a little breakout pullback long again. But more importantly than that, it's a double bottom at the EMA in an uptrend, and we hadn't gotten back to the upper side of this channel yet. And easy scalp. No big runners there. I forgot to talk about the runners. You were able to get runners on this trade, this trade, and this trade. Okay, had a slight interruption there. I can't remember where we left off. I think we were talking about this trade. I hope this is where we were, but this was a failed second entry short coming off the trend line, so nice place to go long. Again, we were talking about the runners. Maybe we've gotten all the way through here, but this was the last trade. I think I'm going to pick up right here. I may have already talked about this trade. This is kind of a breakout pullback long, but you can see that there's two tries back to test this support area. Was resistance. It's kind of a breakout pullback from this here as well. Then we got another bounce off the possible trend line, just confirms this line. And a nice little reversal bar. It ticked lower first there, turns up. You drop a stop order or wait for it to trigger and drop a limit order in. Easy scalp. But again, you were able to get runners off of this trade, and this trade. There were runners off of this one. I believe there was runners off this one and not this one. And you could have gotten some runners, several points. We talked about that one. So, and for those of you that are new runners, basically what we do is we go in with, let's say, 2 contracts. We scalp out of one, move our stop to break even on the second one, and we try to let the second one run. But if prices come back too quickly, they'll take our break-even stop out, but we still have a winning trade. And so that's what we're talking about when we talk about runners. And my headphones, the batteries are about to die. My back still bothers me a little bit today. But it was another good trading day. Hopefully you see the trend lines and how important it is, and that you not only you look for the patterns. We're not pattern traders again. We're price action traders. So just because you see a pattern, what we're looking for is for the setups or the patterns to happen at the key entry points, which are along support and resistance. And that's either these angled trend lines or they're sometimes flat support and resistance. But an angled trend line here, I hadn't mentioned this in a while, is nothing more than an angled support and resistance. It's just like this line right here, except it's angled. Notice what happens every time prices have come back to it. They've bounced. And so it's same thing coming up through here. So it's acting as support and resistance. And you wait for the break of the trend line, and then you're still looking for a move back to a new high on a retest. So we're coming down through here. We had our break, then a move to a new low on a retest, and then the trend changed. And we really hadn't had a break right here. Looks like this was my target. We may go higher than that, but this is really what I call congestion. No reason to be entering right there. Stay away from that. But You do have a little trap here, so it may set up on a long, but I wouldn't be taking it this late in the day. But you may get a chance to get another long here because it doesn't look like to me we've had a trend line break. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.